Okay, so let's say we've got this data set and we wanted to take a stratified random sample of, I don't know, let's say n equals 30. So we want to sample 30 people. We want to stratify based on whether they're smokers or not. We have a few categories. They were former smokers, they're current smokers, they've never smoked. So it looks like just those three. So former, current, and never. Those are the three categories that we're going to need to find percentages for so that we can properly stratify the sample. Because when you take stratified random sampling, that means you're sampling proportionally within those groups. Like let's say half of these, half the people in our data set are smokers. Then we want to randomly sample 15 of the 30 to be former smokers. Okay, so we got to find the counts first so we can find out the true percentages. And so to find out these counts, I'm going to type in, actually, I don't want to make it too confusing by doing two things at once. Let's do it this way. Here, let's actually make it next to this. Sorry for all the ums. Okay, but for formers, here's what I'm going to do. In the cell directly to the right, I made myself a blank column to the right of our categories. I'm going to type equals. I'm going to type if, because we're writing a conditional, and then I open a parentheses, and then I'm going to type F2 because that's the cell directly next to this one. And I want to check to see if F2 is equal to, and I think that's the next part. I don't remember in Excel if it's double equals here. Let's try this. If it's equal to former, then I want to put a 1. If it's not equal to former, I'm going to put a 0. Yeah, that was it. Okay, so sorry, I had to double check myself. So here's what I typed in: equals if. That's a conditional where I'm going to do something if a certain condition is met. And here's the condition: if that cell F2 is equal to the word former, I'm going to put a 1. And if it's not, I'm going to put a 0. So you can see why it put a 1 here, because this cell does have the word former. And now Excel lets you copy that and repeat the pattern. See how it spit out a 0 down here because that's not equal to former? So now I can just drag this pattern throughout the entire data set. And to find out how many of my sample are former, to find out the count of people that were former smokers, I can type equals over here to make a calculation. And then you just want to add up all those ones. So equals sum instead of counting it by hand. Equals sum, open parentheses, and it starts on G2. That's the cell where I want to start counting. And then if I scroll down, I want to stop counting at G135. Doesn't matter if it's capitalized or not. And there we go. So we have a count. There's 75 out of, how many people do I have here? It ends on 135, starts on 2, so that's 134. So there's 134 people in this particular data set. So the percent of people that are former smokers would just be 75 divided by 134. And then 0.5597. That's the percent as a decimal, obviously. But okay, now I have a count of the number of people that are smokers. And so watch out, because if you change this, if you say, okay, now I want to check to see if they are current, that's going to change the smoker count because we haven't changed this formula over here. So what you want to do is, once you have your count, you can copy it. Right click and copy, and then right click and paste special. I want to paste the values only. So that gets rid of the formula and copies over the formula. Now we can repeat the same step except changing it to current. So here's my formula. It's already checking to see if that cell is former. Now I want to check to see if they're current smokers, so I don't have to go manually count all those. So I'll drag that all the way down. Changes up to ones and zeros. And current is going to be the sum of that column. So equals sum, open parentheses, start in G2, end at G, what was it, 135, I think? I can scroll down to check. The other way is, you could, instead of typing G2 colon G135, you can just click and drag. That also works. So there's 17 people that are current smokers. So I'll copy and paste that. so I don't lose that number. And so the percent, again, I can do with my calculator because there's 134 values in my data set. So that's 0.126. Here, I'll just copy a bunch of these. And never smokers, same process. And then we're going to, I think we can just double click in Excel or in Google Sheets. No, maybe not. I'm just going to click and drag to be safe. Okay, and it's working correctly because every time there's a never, there's a 1. So we'll do the same thing, equals sum G2 to G135, and then I'll copy and paste that. So I copied it using Control C. I want to paste the values only, and now I can calculate the percentage. We're almost done. Okay, there's programs that do all this automatically. You have to learn the stats program a bit, but you can just say, hey, I want a stratified random sample on the variable former, and then you got to kind of learn the program to figure out exactly how to do it. But this is how you can do it yourself manually in case you don't want to fight with those programs. And so the last thing to do, well, there's two last things. First, that's the percentage of people. And so the last thing I need to do is take my sample size and multiply it by 0.5597. Because that will tell me how many of my sample I should be getting to be former. So 16.79 will round that up to 17. I want 17 out of the 30 to be former smokers. And now the next one, here's my percentage of people in the data set times 30. I really didn't need all those decimals. So that one rounds up to 4. And then never 0.30597 times 30. That one rounds down. I think that might be too many people. Nope, that's perfect. Okay. So if we're taking a random sample of 13, 17 need to be former, 4 current, 9 never. So we're ready to get those, we're ready to randomly select those 17, those 4, and those 9. But one thing we should do maybe is to copy and paste this to another place so we don't lose it. So all I did was I clicked this plus symbol, and I'm going to paste it over here so I don't lose this information. And you can make as many sheets as you want to help you keep track of things. I guess there's two ways of going about this. So let's just take this column, and what you're going to have on my assignment I'm giving my students is that every subject has a number. So I'll quickly make a number table. You don't have to do this. Your data set's already numbered. That's like our subject number. So you could first sort this sheet by their status, whether they're their smoking status, whether they're current, they're former, or they're never smokers. And then you can make separate sheets for each one. So I can take all the current smokers, copy and paste this data, and make a new sheet down here. So Control C and Control V, or if you're on an Apple computer, Command C and Command V, or you can just right click it. So I made an entirely new sheet. These are just current smokers, and then if I go back to my data sheet, current smokers, I'm supposed to randomly select 4 of them. So in the current smokers, to randomly select them, I'm going to give them each a random number. So I'm going to type equals rand and open and close the parentheses. And once the autofill, so go ahead and do that. And then I can sort this data set by the random numbers. And you'll notice the random numbers change right after. It's because every time you do an action in Excel or Google Sheets, it changes the random numbers again. So that's okay. If you really don't like that, what you could do is you could take your random numbers, make sure they don't move anymore, paste them as values, and then sort the data sheet. Okay, but you don't have to do that. Doesn't matter if it's least or greatest because you just sorted based on a random number you gave them. So just take the top 4. So I would take subject 123, 128, 67, and 16. Those are my 4 randomly selected subjects. Those are their numbers. Okay? And then you could do the same thing for the former subjects. Copy and paste the numbers for all of your former subjects. And I'm going to do it in a new sheet. So I'm going to hit add sheet down here, paste them here. And then if I go back to my reference sheet, I got 17 I'm supposed to pick here. So here's my former sheet. Same thing, I'm going to type equals rand, open and close the parentheses, go ahead and autofill. I'm going to sort this based on least to greatest. And remember, the numbers change, so it did sort at least to greatest. But I'm just going to take the top 17, and then that's a randomly selected list. So these are my randomly selected people, okay, for former. It's going to come down as a column, but you can right click and paste it as a row, transposed. There we go. So there they all are. Now you can copy and paste it into a Word document really easy. And then I'm supposed to get 9 people that are never. So if I go back to this sheet I've sorted, I want to copy and paste all my never smokers into a new sheet. And then I'm going to sort them based on random numbers. Okay? So right click, sort sheet A to Z, and then I forgot how many already, so where's my reference sheet? Naming these would help me, wouldn't it? So I wouldn't have to click around. I'm supposed to get 9 people for my never column. So I'll take the first 9. And then paste them, and I want them as rows. They were columns. I want to transpose it and paste them as rows. There we go. So I've conducted a stratified random sample now. That's the idea behind stratified random sampling. You sample proportionally. About 56% of the original data set were formers. So about 56% of my sample should be formers. It should be a little over half, and that's why there's more than all the other categories there. About 13% of my original data set are current smokers. So 13%, roughly 13% of my data set are current smokers. That's how you take a stratified random sample.